Well, you may have seen that we were recently joined as a sponsor by GuestReady, who are sponsoring our short-term rental discussions. And for more on that topic, I'm now joined by Stefan, who is City Manager for GuestReady. And Stefan, so much interest from landlords on property tribes on the topic of short-term rentals, because there's some terrific reasons to get involved in the sector, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at the trends of the last 10 years, the short-term rental industry as a whole has changed massively. If you look back 10 years ago, there were short-term rentals. There was just no platform such as Airbnb, HomeAway, Booking.com. There's been a massive increase in popularity, both from the user side, so the guests, but also from the client side, so the hosts, right? There's been definitely a massive spike in interest, but also talking about yields. There's lots of potential, especially in London, Edinburgh, Manchester. We're looking at revenues of 2x what you could potentially make on the longer term rental market. So it's definitely an interesting time for short-term rentals right now.
It is indeed, and I think for landlords, the void is, or a void is we hate that word. Really, we don't need that in our vocabulary anymore, because if a landlord knows that their property is going to be void for a month or so, then they could potentially fill it with a short-term rental via your platform. Yeah,
definitely. So a lot of our clients are, clients looking to fill in voids, whether they're in between tenancies, they're moving out, they're selling their home. There's always going to be this void period where, the property is sitting empty. Why leave it sit empty? You can definitely put it on Airbnb, put it on other platforms. Once it's on there, you'll definitely generate revenue. So it's definitely worth a try.
It is, and I think one thing that always deters landlords from considering this strategy is because typically they've always thought it's very hands-on. They've got to go and meet guests, they've got to organise cleaners, they've got to deal with guest issues, and really that's where you step in, because you take away the total hassle of doing all of this. And it's really interesting how you support the entire life cycle of a short-term let, because I noticed on your website that you actually offer 9 different support services to landlords.
Definitely. So, I mean, running short-term rentals sounds very easy. There's a lot of people who do try it themselves. Once they've started, they come to realize that it's a very difficult operation to manage, from end to end, which is where we come in. So we essentially offer an end-to-end management solution for short-term rentals. So that means everything from creating the listings online, making sure that the listings are optimized fully, such as appealing descriptions, professional photography, dynamic pricing. So that's all included in the online listing side. Once it's online, we get bookings, so we deal with all the communication side of things. You do have to be on call 24/7, which is the tricky part. Guests are becoming more and more demanding these days. They want a quick response, whether it's before their booking, if they're asking any questions about the property itself or the area it's located in, but also during their stay. A lot of issues there will be issues. So we're there pretty much 24/7 to handle those.
And you're very keen to assist with landlord education, which is one of the reasons that you came on board with Property Tribes. And one of the things that you'll do is look at a landlord's property and give them advice on how to set it up as a short-term rental, because typically guests are very demanding these days, and landlords need to offer a really high-quality product, and you can advise on that, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the way it currently works is we schedule an introductory call. During that call, we get to understand more about the property itself, about you, what situation you're in, why you're looking to short lets as well. But definitely on the advice side of things, we do recommend, furniture. We do recommend appliances in the home, whether it's, having simple things like a kettle and toaster, which you'd be surprised there's a lot of people who don't. Obviously, the most important is Wi-Fi. Everyone wants Wi-Fi these days.
Yep.
So that's more of the basic side of things. But then we do provide, the essentials such as linen, toiletries, tea and sugar and salt and pepper, basically. But that's basically what we offer.
It is a different kind of mentality to renting out a property to a long-term tenant. they're living there, that's their home, they're going to kind of personalise it themselves, they want to stay there for a long time. When you're renting to guests, it's a completely different mentality because they're there for a short period, perhaps they're on holiday, and they are looking for something that is at least as good as their own home or possibly even better. So it's, if landlords are going to go down this route, they do need to think about creating a very kind of high-class product, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the properties that do the best for us are generally, keep it basic but keep it very functional. Mm-hmm. We definitely like that. They also look very nice on pictures, so we don't want too much clutter. We don't want too many personal items either. As you said, people are coming there on a holiday or on a work trip, and they don't want to feel like they're invading someone's privacy either. Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely, keep it basic, keep it functional, keep it appealing, nice on pictures, modern, bright, white, anything works, but those are the main ones I would stick with.
I think the other really important thing with short-term rentals, Stefan, is cleanliness. Certainly when I do my holiday lettings, I instruct my cleaners that I want the property cleaned to a standard so that when new guests arrive, it looks like there's never been anybody in the property before. And a big part of your service is providing cleaners that understand the standards that are required.
Yeah, definitely. So cleaning is the most important part of the service. It's what guests are looking for when they first walk in, right? The cleaning is generally what they look at the most and what they'll comment on the most. So for us, especially for the review side of things, which is something I forgot to mention, all of this is to get the best reviews. The cleaning is definitely the most important part of the service, yeah.
So for landlords looking to come on board with GuestReady, what I love about what you're doing is you've simplified everything, you've invested in technology, you're constantly improving your platform to make it easier to use for both consumers and property owners. So to get a property onto the marketplace is a relatively straightforward process.
So it is pretty straightforward, although it's easier than it sounds. So Airbnb is the easiest platform to list your property on. The issue is when you're just listing on Airbnb, you don't get the high levels of occupancy and revenues you might get from other channels. This is where we come in. Obviously, when you're on these different channels, you'll need a syncing mechanism in place, as well as pricing. So all this needs to kind of sync together, right? What you don't want is to have double bookings, cancellation fees. Guests show up at the property with saying they booked it, although there are other guests there. So definitely there's this whole this sync of platforms that's very important. But it is relatively simple to get online. I do recommend you look for help or a channel manager or use GuestReady if you're looking to do this.
So as we get to know GuestReady a bit better, will you be able to come on to Property Tribes and answer any questions that our community may have?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I'm always available. I'm happy to answer any questions. Feel free to call us as well. As I said, we have an introductory call, which generally helps to kind of go through the basic questions at first before moving on to the next steps.
And also online chat, I noticed.
Yes, of course, yeah, definitely.
So that's a good thing as well. So if you've got any questions, you can go onto the GuestReady website and you can use the online chat or indeed have an introductory call. Is there any property that you think wouldn't suit short-term rentals? I guess it's really suited to properties in city centres with really good transport links. So perhaps somewhere far out into the country that's very hard to get to might not do so well.
So we tend to focus on the urban city centres, that's true. That doesn't mean properties outside don't work well. I think in terms of revenues and maybe occupancy rates, you're not looking at the same levels as you would get in the city. That's just the way it is. But definitely on the coast, in the countryside, there are some places that do really well. So I wouldn't avoid that either.
Well, it's really, really great to have your input here at Property Tribes. Thank you for your support of Property Tribes by sponsoring our short-term rentals category. And do go out and check out the GuestReady website if you'd like to find out more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.